The card? I got it right here. Okay, I will let them know you're here. Yeah. There is a back door as well. They can do an indirect hit. We're just about a minute. Would you like to start? Or is there somebody missing that you're expecting? Is somebody missing that you're expecting to see? Is somebody missing that you are expecting? Is there another one that we're waiting? No, because we have Vivian here. Is that always waiting for? Anyone else? I don't know that we would wait for it. What do you think?
3 days because we don't know if she's coming.
Yeah, I'm not sure if she's coming.
Go for it. Yeah, I think so.
So, those who are wearing the ribbons now, for hearts that are torn, we symbolize that outwardly through the act of Kriya. So if you would wear your ribbon, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam dayan hamet, blessed are you, Adonai, ruler of the universe, who is the reconciler. From the bottom.
The bottom is split it.
I'm trying.
You got better nails than I do.
Death has taken our beloved Eileen. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence, there is lamentation. In their tears, there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God. Be with them. for Eileen's love that united us in life and which death cannot sever, for her companionship that we shared along life's path, and which continues through the tenderness of memory, for the gifts of her heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness, and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give thanks to God. In this time of grief, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures that brings us the ever-new message of God's nearness. It tells us of kinship with the Creator, in light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, in life as in death. Words from Psalm 16. Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid, ki mimini bal emot. Lachen samach libi, vayagel kevodi, af besari yishkon lavetach, ki lo tazov nafshi lishon, lo titein chasidcha lirot shachat, todieni orach chaim, orach chaim. Sova semachot et panecha, nehimot bimincha netzach. Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid, ki mimini bal emot. Let us recite together the words of Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. O God, you have been our refuge in every generation. Before the mountains came into being, before you brought forth the earth and the world, from eternity to eternity, you are God. You return us to dust. You decree, return, you mortals. For in your sight 1,000 years are as yesterday when it has passed, as a watch in the night. You engulf us in sleep. We are like grass that renews itself. At daybreak it flourishes anew. At dusk it withers and dries. The span of our life is 80 years and 10, or given strength 80. But the best of those years have trouble and sorrow. They pass by speedily, and we are in darkness. Teach us, therefore, so to number our days, that we may attain a heart of wisdom. Turn to us, O God. Show mercy to your servants. Satisfy us at daybreak with your steadfast love, that we may sing for joy all our days. Let your deeds be seen by your servants, your glory by their children. May your favor, O God, be upon us. establish the work of our hands, that it may long endure. Psalm 121. Esa einai el harim, mehayin yavo ezri. Ezri meim Adonai, ose shamayim, shamayim, va'aretz. Al yitein lamot raglecha, al yanum shomrecha. Hine lo yanum velo yishan shomer Yisrael. Adonai shomerecha, Adonai tzilcha al yad yeminecha, yomam hashemesh lo yakeka, v'yareach balayla. Adonai yishmorcha mikol ra, ישמור את נפשך, אדוני ישמור צאתך ובואך מעתה ועד עולם. A woman of valor who can find. She is more precious than fine pearls. Her husband trusts in her, and so he lacks nothing. She does him good, never harm, all the days of her life. She perceives that her labor is rewarding. Her candle burns on into the night. She reaches out to those in need and extends her hand to the poor. She is clothed in strength and dignity, and she faces the future cheerfully. She speaks with wisdom. The law of kindness is on her lips. Her children rise up and bless her. Her husband sings her praises. Many daughters have done valiantly, but you excel them all. In his sorrow, Job cried out, Adonai Natan v'Adonai lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach. God has given, God has taken away. Bless the name of God. An ancient people, we are well acquainted with grief and with the valley of shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us, yet the centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave, and that there is strength in faith. With Job we say, Adonai Natan, God, you have given. You gave us a loved one who will not be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in her life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. Adonai lakach, God, you have taken away. We pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust before which We acknowledge your sovereignty in love. And now we say, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach. Blessed be the name of God, now and forever. Please take a few moments of silent prayer. May the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and our Redeemer. I'd like to invite Stephanie to come forward and share a few words about her mother.
I could say a lot about my mother, Eileen Gordon. I could talk about her support of Naamat and Israel, her love for her children and grandchildren, and my father, Eugene, her interest in photography, or her many travels. But I'm going to talk about an aspect of her personality that had a profound effect upon my own life. My mother was an accomplished artist. She created art in a variety of media. She loved arts and crafts and beautiful handmade things. I spent many pleasant hours with Eileen, going to art museums, galleries, craft shops, and art fairs. She had exquisite taste and enjoyed buying beautiful things for others. If you casually mentioned that you needed a new serving bowl at your next birthday, you would get a gorgeous, one-of-a-kind, handcrafted pottery piece that was much more wonderful than you would have ever picked out for yourself. My mother fostered my own interest in art. She signed me up for Saturday art classes at the Cleveland Museum of Art. She took me to experimental film festivals at the Art Institute. In my life, I have been both an artist and an art teacher, and I owe that to her. Our last real outing together was to the Cleveland Museum of Art to see a special exhibit of paintings by Van Gogh. She was using a walker and was starting to have trouble seeing, but we marveled at every painting together. I will miss the art experiences that we had together, but I treasure those memories.
Thank you, Stephanie. Mark, would you like to share a few words as well?
Regrettably, neither of my children, Evan or Emma, could attend this because they're both quarantining because of COVID. So they asked that I read a little something that each one wrote. So I just want to start out with that. Evan wrote, "Dear Grandpa, I wish I could be with you right now, but I wanted to send a few words to say I love you. I've been thinking about all the good times we shared as I was growing up and how great you and Grandma have always been to us kids. One of my earliest memories is being with you both in Hawaii. So in an unexpected way, he was in Hawaii at a wedding, which is where he got exposed to COVID. So in an unexpected way, I've been spending time in a place that I first got to enjoy with you both 30 years ago. I'll always remember playing in pools with you, with Grandma sitting in a pool chair, declining to join, but always insisting, "No, you have fun, Toots." Grandma, I love you. Rest and be at peace. I always feel blessed to have grown up with the most loving and kind grandma. Emma wrote, "When I was in second grade, my teacher, Ms. White, gave me the greatest assignment I'd ever received in my 7 years of life. We had to read a 96-page book, which is a whole lot of pages for a 7-year-old, even if there were only a couple of sentences on each page. Ms. White encouraged us to mail our colored cutouts of the main character, Flat Stanley, to members of our family so he could go on adventures. My grandma certainly exceeded all expectations, and the photos she sent back were the star of the show. We received photos of Flat Stanley traveling the globe. But my personal favorite was a photo of Stanley posed politely at the top of a giant saguaro cactus in Tucson next to tiny Grandma Eileen. I can only assume that Grandpa played a role in Stanley's placement at such a high perch. But the humor was so Grandma. I've never met anyone else quite like her, and I'm almost certain I never will. She was strong-willed, independent, and loved her children fiercely. She was a role model to the modern woman and will be greatly loved even in her absence. So I just wanted to share a few of my memories of Mom, to sort of give a few snapshots of the sort of person that she was to me. One of the first things I'd like to note is that when I was 9, 10, 11, horror movies were not graphically gross back then. They were just intended to be scary. So I remember she would go to Saturday matinees with me, and we would go to horror movies because no one else in the family was the least interested in going to a horror movie. And we both really enjoyed them. How many mothers go to horror movies with their young children? And another is she was very artistic, and she did a lot of the art around the house. And one of the things she did was when we lived on Ashurst, she was painting a beautiful olive tree as a mural in the kitchen wall, and using very 70s colors, yellow, avocado green, the sort of colors we probably wouldn't want to use today, but it was very much in vogue then. And one of the nice things was she would involve me as a consultant. This again was when I was probably, 11 years old. And she'd say, what do you think about painting this leaf, burnt orange? And I'd have an opinion, and I'd say either, yeah, that's a good choice, or no, I think that'd be better green, or whatever. And she would always consider what I was saying and say, yeah, that's a good idea, and then she'd go ahead and do it. So making me feel very involved in what she was doing. She was also deeply religious, kept kosher, observed Shabbat and holidays, and at the temple was very welcoming and embracing of Diane, my wife, who at the time had not yet converted and was not Jewish, of course. And she was very loving and immediately accepting of Diane, which shows the kind of loving person she was. One of my favorite memories actually is I was living in California when Diane and I got engaged. And we wanted to have the wedding in Cleveland so all the family and friends could join us. And so we got engaged, probably, 15 months maybe before we actually planned to have the wedding. So I called up my mom because I said, we're out here in California. It's kind of difficult to plan a wedding in Cleveland from California. Would you mind giving me a hand? And she said, sure. So I thought, it's 15 months out. 6 months from now, I might hear back from her, regarding starting to make plans. But she was so excited. 2 weeks later, I got a call from her. Oh, I've identified this great place to hold the wedding. I've already started talking to the florist. I'm looking for a photographer. And she planned the most perfect wedding I could imagine. If I had been planning it myself, it would have been nowhere near as nice, because she had such an eye for detail and artistry and putting everything together. And it made my wedding, such a wonderful memory for me. As Stephanie mentioned, she was very giving of her time in charitable work. She spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours doing volunteer artwork and coordinating gatherings for Na'amat and doing other things for that. She was always a very neat housekeeper, but she also made places for us children to make a mess, such as the family room or or in our bedrooms, which sometimes got a little bit much for her, and she said we had to clean them. And also in the basement, she allowed me to have my chemistry set and be a bit of a mad scientist. I would be down there, burning sulfur to see the bright blue flame, which of course produced basically sulfuric acid in the air. Must have stunk to high heaven, but she never once complained and said, you got to stop doing all that stuff down there. And she also gave really excellent life guidance. But she still allowed me and encouraged me, along with Dad, of course, to follow my own life and my own path. One of the things that's a good example of that is after my first year of college, I decided I didn't really like the major that I was doing, and I needed to switch to something else, but I didn't have any idea what. So I told them I was going to take a year off to figure out what I really wanted to do next as a major in college. And both she and Dad were very understanding. They said, if that's what you think you should do, go ahead and do it. It was only years later that I was told that when I got off the phone, they looked at each other and basically said, Mark is nuts. What's he doing? But I didn't ever know that at the time, and I was never discouraged from doing what I thought was best for me. She loved her grandchildren very much, and it really had no limits, with a few exceptions. You may remember this, Dad, that we were all having dinner together, the entire family, Stephanie, Keith, I, and the children. And Jeremy and Evan, they were probably, 5 years old, something like that. And they decided that it would be fun at the restaurant sitting at the table to pretend they were rhinoceroses. So they took French fries and put them up their noses. This was really too much for Grandma. She was really horrified. And she openly wondered about the quality of the parenting skills. And she also was very good at building my self-confidence. When I started going to Canterbury, my elementary school, in kindergarten, I felt I was a very big boy. I was walking to kindergarten on my own. I was king of the world. After the first couple of weeks that she, showed me which way to go. It was only many years later that I learned that even though I thought I was going to Canterbury on my own, she was following about a block behind me to make sure I got to where I was supposed to be going safely. And lastly, I remember her being an excellent cook. She made a lot of wonderful meals. My favorite, I'm a vegetarian now, but the thing I miss most is her cooked beef tongue. It was really delicious. I hope this just gives you a quick snapshot of the kind of very loving mother she was, a wonderful person, and that she will be loved and missed very much by me.
Thank you, Mark and Stephanie, for sharing little glimpses of your experiences and memories of your mother. I will add my own words. We are here today to mourn the loss of a beloved wife, mother, aunt, and grandmother, Eileen Gordon. Eugene and his children shared with me so many wonderful stories just a few days ago, and I'd like to share a few of them with you today. Eileen was born in Cleveland in 1928 at St. Luke's Hospital, which I understand doesn't exist anymore, and attended Roxborough Elementary and then Heights High School. Eileen and Eugene met in October of their senior high school year through their mutual friend, Herb Ives. Eugene wasn't sure if Herb and Eileen were going steady, so he asked his friend, would it be okay to take Eileen on a date? Herb gave his consent. Later, Eugene remembers Herb telling him that was the dumbest thing to say go ahead. The high school sweethearts wrote letters to each other throughout their college years, as Eileen was at the Cleveland Institute of Art and Eugene was studying at Miami of Ohio. After attending one too many weddings of her friends with Eugene only as her date, Eileen finally laid down the ultimatum. If one more girlfriend gets married before us, we're through. So Eugene did the sensible thing. He asked Eileen for her hand in marriage. Eileen had to think about it. The proposal was made in August of 1950, and they were married the following January. Eileen studied fine art at Cleveland Institute of Art. Although she specialized in painting, she was also an accomplished photographer, pen and ink artist, and enamel jewelry creator. Eileen put her artistic skills to work at Bing & Haas advertising agency, as well as making table decorations and brochure artwork for Na'amat events. Eileen was active with Na'amat for many years, even as the president of the local chapter. While her membership and Na'amat took her to Israel several times, Eileen and Eugene traveled the entire world together, visiting places like China, Russia, Australia, New Zealand, all over Europe, Africa, and even an archaeological dig in Mexico. Places of worship seem to have been points of interest on many of these trips. Eugene recalled two humorous episodes, one in England, the other in the Netherlands. While visiting several historic churches throughout England, they came upon a rather famous one in the north of England. After entering, as I was told, Eugene remarked, "It's nice." Eileen replied, "It is. Can we leave now?" It seems that once you've seen one church, you've seen them all. Another trip to Amsterdam took them to the Portuguese Synagogue, a historic building from the 17th century. Eugene described it as rather spacious inside. Eileen decided to explore the women's gallery upstairs. There were hundreds of seats. So Eileen sat down to take it all in. An older Dutch woman approached her and started to speak to her in Dutch, which she didn't understand. A younger person came over and explained in English that Eileen was sitting in the woman's seat. In case I'm giving the impression that Eileen only enjoyed traveling, let me share that she also loved art shows, craft shops, the Cavaliers, live music performances, and best of all, she loved chicken. It didn't matter which restaurant they went to, Eileen would usually order the chicken and eat her dinner very slowly. Stephanie confessed that her mother was the slowest eater on earth, but they never left her behind. Eileen was very close to her sister Muriel, as well as her parents. Later in life, she turned that family affection to her niece and nephew and her grandchildren and made sure to spend as much time with them as she could. But back to her love of arts. Eugene and Eileen would travel for many years to the Shaw Festival in Niagara-on-the-Lake, Ontario. She also ushered at Severance Hall and made sure that her in-depth knowledge of artists from around the world were always shared with Eugene when they visited museums. I'm told that Eileen's love of art was not entirely cerebral, however. She loved to seek out good deals at art shows and craft shops. In fact, she had a Born to Shop t-shirt to prove it. I was told that Eileen chose her final resting place at Knollwood Cemetery so that she could be close to her favorite stores. Enjoy shopping at all the heavenly boutiques, Eileen. All the shelves are in easy reach, even if you're only 4'10". May the memory of Eileen endure among us as a blessing. In your own time, O God, when we too are called to enter eternity, may we leave this life secure in the faith that in your light we shall see light. In life and in death we cannot go where you are not, and where you are, hope endures. Sustained by this assurance, we invoke your name, Almighty God. As you are able, please rise for the chanting of El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein B'Maromim, Hamtzei Menucha Nechona, תחת כנפי השכינה, עם קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים. את נשמת יקירנו שהלכה לעולמה, בעל הרחמים, יסתיריה בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה. Together v'nomar Amen. O God, full of compassion, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to our loved one, Eileen Gordon, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge forever in the shadow of your wings. Let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. Together, let us say, Amen. Mourners Kaddish. Thank you. We'll have cards distributed just now. Together. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'izman kariv v'imeru Amen. Yehei shemei rabba mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, Vit hadar, vit ale, vit halal, shemei de kudsha berichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Zichrona livracha, may Eileen's memory forever be a blessing. Our service is concluded. The family has invited friends to express their condolences here in the chapel. So you may be seated, and is the family ready to receive